My dear friends, today let us pause together and reflect on some simple yet profound, the power of a smile. A smile, in its simplest form, is a gift we can give to each other, no matter our circumstances. It costs nothing, yet it can transform the world around us. Just think, when we smile at another person, we are offering a moment of peace. We are saying, I see you. I recognize your worth. In a world that sometimes feels heavy with division, sadness, and fear, a smile can be a quiet but powerful of resistance, a way to bring light to darkness. It is in the simple, everyday gestures of kindness and love that we are called to be instruments of peace. But peace does not begin with grand gestures. It begins with the small, simple moments in which we choose to share a little warmth with others. It begins with a smile. Peace. Dear brothers and sisters, it begins in the heart of each one of us. I want you to think, just for a moment, about the peace that Jesus offers. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A peace that does not fade when the storm comes. It is a peace that dwells within, a peace that flows from the heart of God and makes its way into the world through us. It is not a peace that we simply receive. It is a peace we are called to give. In the Gospel, Jesus often speaks about peace, not as a distant ideal, but as something that we must live. He tells us in the Gospel of John, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you." John 14:27. But he does not leave us with a vague sense of peace, nor does he call us to seek peace in some distant place. He calls us to make peace a living, breathing reality in our own hearts. My peace I give to you, he says, meaning that peace is not a possession we guard, but a gift we share, a gift we offer to the world. Peace begins within us because, first and foremost, peace is rooted in the love of God. If we do not allow God's love to take root in our hearts, then how can we share peace with others? Peace is the fruit of a heart that has known the mercy of God. When we experience that mercy, when we come to know how deeply we are loved, no matter our failings, no matter our struggles, then and only then can we offer that peace to the world. Think about how often we turn to God in times of distress, when our hearts are troubled, when the weight of life feels too much to bear. It is in those moments, dear friends, that God whispers to us, "My peace I give to you." In those moments, He invites us to rest in His love, to rest in the knowledge that He is with us in our suffering. And as we receive that peace, we are called to pass it on. But this is where the challenge lies, isn't it? Peace is not always easy to find within. We live in a world that often tries to rob us of our peace through distractions, through the noise, through the divisions that pull at our hearts. How often do we let anger, resentment, or fear take root in us? How often do we allow the difficulties of life to steal our inner peace and make us forget the love of God? Yet, when we remember God's presence with us, when we remember His faithfulness, we find that peace is not so far away. It is right here, within, waiting to be embraced. And once we allow peace to settle in our hearts, once we truly receive it, we can't help but share it. A peaceful heart is not a silent one. It is a heart that speaks of God's love, that offers kindness to others, that forgives, welcomes, that listens. This is where peace begins to transform the world. Not through force, not through violence, but through love, through small acts of mercy, through a gentle smile, through a kind word, through the willingness to listen and understand those around us. Think about the people you encounter in your daily life. The cashier at the store, the person who is homeless on the street, the neighbor who is struggling with loneliness, the family member who has hurt you. Do you look at them with the eyes of peace? Do you allow God's love to flow from your heart to theirs? It is so easy to become caught up in our own worries, to become closed off from others. But peace calls us to something greater. It calls us to be present to others, to see them as God sees them, to offer them the same mercy we have received. Jesus, in his ministry, constantly moved toward the margins. He reached out to the outcasts, the sinners, the sick, the poor, the very people who are often rejected by society. Why? Because he knew that peace was not just for the righteous, not just for the comfortable. Peace is for everyone. It is a gift for the poor, the broken, the lost, and it is our privilege to share it. When we open our hearts to those in need, we open the door to peace. There is a beautiful story of a mother, a simple woman, who stands on the corner of a street in a poor neighborhood, smiling at those who pass by. She may not have much to give, but her smile, her warm greeting, brings a bit of light to the weary souls who walk by. And in that small, seemingly insignificant moment, peace is shared. That smile speaks of God's love. It reminds others that they are seen, that they are loved, and that they are not forgotten. You see, peace does not begin with grand gestures. It begins with the small things, the things that we might overlook, but that matter deeply to those around us. A smile, a kind word, a listening ear, a moment of patience. All of these are the seeds of peace that, when planted in the hearts of others, begin to grow and bear fruit. So I ask you today, how can you allow peace to begin in your heart? How can you become a vessel of peace in the world? It starts with opening your heart to God's love, receiving His mercy, and letting it change you. And once you've received that peace, share it with others. Let it be the first thing you offer, especially to those who need it most. Let peace be the way you live your life, in every word, in every action, in every smile. The world is waiting for the peace we have to offer. Let us be the ones to bring it. Let us be the ones who let peace begin within and let it flow outward, touching the lives of all those we encounter. Peace begins in the heart, and today it can begin in yours. When we smile, dear friends, we are not merely expressing a pleasant emotion or fulfilling a social expectation. No, a smile is much more than that. It is an invitation to encounter, to meet the other where they are, and to recognize them as a fellow child of God. How often do we pass by people without truly seeing them? How many faces do we look at each day without really encountering the lives behind them? And yet, each face is a story, each life a unique reflection of God's love. A smile can be a bridge that connects us, that breaks down the walls of isolation and draws us closer to one another. Think for a moment about the people you encounter every day. The person behind the counter at the grocery store, the homeless man on the street corner, the elderly neighbor sitting alone on her porch. How easy it is to become so focused on our own lives, on our own business, that we fail to truly see the people around us. But a smile changes that. A smile shifts our perspective. It says, I see you. I recognize you. You matter. I am minded of a story, a simple one, of a woman who walked each day past a man who lived on the street. He was dirty, disheveled, and often sat alone with no one to talk to. She had noticed him many times, but one day, instead of just passing by, she smiled at him. It was a small gesture, nothing grand, but in that moment, the man's eyes lit up and he smiled back. That smile, dear friends, was an encounter. It was the first step in breaking down the barrier of loneliness and rejection that so often surrounds those who live on the margins of society. This is what a smile does. It makes an encounter possible. It opens the door to relationship, to communion. And what a beautiful thing it is to know that we are not alone in this world. So often we forget that we are all part of the same family, all children of God. We are called to be brothers and sisters to one another, but it is so easy to become absorbed in our own lives, in our own worries, that we forget to see the faces around us. A smile, however small, reminds us of our shared humanity. It is a recognition that we are all in this together, that we all need each other. In the Gospel, Jesus shows the importance of encounter. Think of the many times he stopped to speak with those whom society had pushed aside. The tax collectors, the sick, the sinners. He didn't just walk by them. He looked at them. He saw them. And he met them they were. Jesus didn't wait for people to come to him in perfect condition. He went to them in their brokenness, in their struggles, in their pain. And in every encounter, he offered them the peace and love of God. This is what we are called to do as well, to see beyond the surface, to look into the eyes of another person and recognize them as someone worthy of love, someone who carries with them the image of God. And when we smile, we are inviting them into that encounter. We are saying, you are not invisible. You are not alone. You are part of my world, and I am part of yours. Perhaps you might wonder, what difference can a smile really make? It's such a small thing. But let me tell you, my friends, it is in the small things that God works most powerfully. We are called to be faithful in the little things. A smile may seem insignificant, but it can plant a seed in someone's heart that grows into something much greater. A conversation, a connection, an act of kindness. And from that moment, a relationship is born. Think about how much more we could change the world if we took the time to truly encounter those around us. How much more peace, how much more love could, if we spread, we simply paused for a moment to acknowledge the humanity of the person in front of us. How many lonely people, how many people suffering in silence would feel seen, heard, and loved if we offered them just a simple smile. But let's not forget, this invitation to encounter is not just for the people who are easy to love, it's for everyone. The stranger, the difficult neighbor, the person who has hurt us, the person who thinks differently from us. Jesus didn't limit his encounters to those who were comfortable or familiar to him. He reached out to all, and he calls us to do the same. So, I ask you today, my dear brothers and sisters, who in your life needs to be seen, who in your world is waiting for an encounter, for someone to recognize them, for someone to offer them a simple sign of love. Maybe it's the person you pass on the street every day, or maybe it's someone in your own home, someone you've been too busy to truly see. Today, let us choose to smile, to offer that small yet powerful invitation to encounter. Let us reach out with love, with kindness, with compassion, and invite others into the warmth of God's presence. For when we smile, we invite the world to experience the love of God, and we become instruments of peace. Let us be those who see others, who smile at them, who offer them the gift of encounter. For in that encounter, God is present, and His peace is made known. We live in a world where too often we encounter division, misunderstanding, and hurt. It is easy, my friends, to become caught up in the struggles of our own lives and forget the deep need for compassion that is at the heart of the gospel. But peace, as we know, is not just the absence of conflict. It is the presence of love. And love, real love, calls us to open our hearts, to see the humanity in each person, especially those who are suffering, those who are poor, and those who feel forgotten by society. I think of the many people I have encountered in my own life who, despite their poverty, their struggles, or their brokenness, have a light in their eyes, a light that comes from within. It is a light that reminds us all that every person, regardless of their circumstances, carries within them the image of God. And that light, dear friends, is where peace begins. It begins in the recognition of that dignity, that divine spark that lives within each of us. But let us not forget that peace also requires us to act. It is not enough simply to recognize the dignity of others. We must also be willing to stand alongside them, to walk with them, and to offer them what we have. Jesus Himself showed us this, didn't He? He did in the safety of His own world. He entered into the pain, the poverty, and the brokenness of the world around Him. He didn't wait for the poor and the suffering to come to Him. He went to them. He reached out to them. He shared His life with them. This is the message we are called to living, that peace requires us to reach out to those on the margins, those whom society has cast aside. It requires us to be present to the poor, the sick, the lonely, the outcast. It requires us to offer them not just our sympathy, but our presence, our care, and our love. And when we do this, we are not simply giving a handout. We are offering a gift that cannot be measured, a gift of hope, of dignity, of human connection. I am reminded of a story, one that many of us know well, of the Good Samaritan. The man in the story was left on the side of the road, beaten and broken, ignored by the priest and the Levite. But the Samaritan the one who was often seen as an outsider, as someone different, stopped. He saw the man. He saw his suffering. And not only did he offer him help, but he walked with him all the way to safety. He didn't just give a coin, he gave of his heart, of his time, of his care. This is what peace looks like. Love in action. And what does it cost us, my friends, to live this kind of peace? It costs us our comfort. It costs us our time. It costs us our attention. But more than anything, it costs us our pride. We must be willing to lower ourselves, to humble ourselves, to see others not as problems to be fixed, but as brothers and sisters to be loved. Jesus shows us that peace begins with humility. When we are humble, when we open our hearts to the reality of the suffering of others, we begin to understand that peace is not just about what we receive, but what we give. Think about the people you encounter today. How often do we fail to truly see them, to hear them, to recognize their pain? Maybe it is the person sitting in the park who looks lonely, or the elderly neighbor who has no one to speak to. Maybe it is the mother struggling to care for her children, or the homeless man who begs for you coins. In each of them, we see the face of Christ. And when we look at them with eyes of compassion, when we reach out to them with love, we are living the peace that Jesus calls us to. But let us not limit ourselves to those who are easy to love. Peace requires us to love those who challenge us, who disagree with us, who hurt us. It is easy to love those who love us back, but the true test of peace is found in how we treat those who cannot repay us, those who may never say thank you. This is where the challenge lies. And yet, this is where Jesus is most present, in the difficult moments, in the places of pain, in the broken relationships, in the suffering that surrounds us. Peace, dear brothers and sisters, begins when we choose to act. It begins when we choose to step into brokenness of the world and offer what we can: our love, our presence, our care. Peace is not simply a feeling or an idea. It is a way of life. It is the way of Jesus, who entered into our broken world and transformed it with his love. So, I ask you, my friends, how can you live this peace today? Who can you reach out to? Who can you help? Not just with your possessions, but with your heart. Who needs to experience the peace of God through you? It may be a small act, a smile, a kind word, a moment of listening. But these small acts have the power to change the world. And when we live this peace, we invite others to do the same. Together, we become instruments of God's love, God's mercy, of God's peace. and the world, dear friends, will be forever changed. Peace, my dear brothers and sisters, also begins when we choose to embrace the beauty of unity. In a world where division seems to be the norm, where differences are often magnified, we are called to see the common thread that binds us all together. Jesus shows us that peace is not simply quiet absence of conflict. It is a deep, transformative unity that calls us to recognize our shared humanity, to transcend our differences, and to work together for the common good. Think of the many people we meet in our daily lives, people who may be very different from us in appearance, in culture, in belief. It's so easy to look at someone and see what divides us, to focus on the things that make us different. But Jesus challenges us to see something more, to look deeper. When we encounter others, we are called not just to see their differences, but to recognize we are all created in the image of God. We are all part of the same family, the same body of Christ. And yet, how often do we fail to see this? How often do we allow our differences to separate us, to isolate us from one another? We can become so caught up in our own worlds, in our own opinions, that we forget the truth that we are all children of the same Father. Jesus calls us to unity, not uniformity, but unity. It's not about erasing our differences. It's about embracing them, about finding strength in them, and using them to build a stronger, more loving community. I think of the many stories of people coming together in the face of adversity, in the face of suffering. I think of the parable of the Good Samaritan, where the Samaritan, a person who was considered an outsider by the Jews, saw the wounded man on the side of the road and chose to help him. He didn't see a stranger. He didn't see someone to fear or to avoid. He saw a brother in need, and his heart was moved to act. This, dear friends, is what unity looks like. It's about seeing each person as a brother or sister, no matter their background, their struggles, or their history. This is not easy. It's not easy to reach out to those who are different, to those who challenge us, to those we may not understand. But it is what we are called to do. We are called to open our hearts, to break down the walls that divide us, and to build up a world of communion, of love, of peace. The unity that Jesus offers us is a unity rooted in love, in mercy, and in justice. It is a unity that does not ignore suffering, but seeks to heal it. It is a unity that reaches across boundaries, that crosses divides, and that brings people together in the spirit of love. I think of the example of Saint Francis of Assisi, a man who was called to embrace a life of simplicity, humility, and love. Saint Francis saw the beauty in all of creation, from the poorest beggar to the wild animals in the forest. He saw that every part of creation had a place in God's plan, and he treated all with dignity and respect. He saw the unity in all things, the interconnectedness of life, and he lived his life as an instrument of peace. This is the call we hear today, to live as instruments of peace, to work for the unity of all people. It's not about uniformity or imposing our will on others. It's about recognizing the beauty of difference and coming together in the spirit of mutual respect, of compassion, and of love. How do we do this in our everyday lives? It starts with small gestures. It starts with listening. It starts with looking beyond our own biases and seeing others as they truly are. People with stories, people with struggles, people with hopes and dreams, just like us. It starts with reaching out to someone who is different from us, someone who may not share our views or our background, and offering them a hand of friendship. It starts with recognizing that we are all in this together and that our differences can enrich us rather than divide us. The gospel teaches us that peace comes through reconciliation. It comes through forgiveness. It comes through the willingness to let go of resentment and to build relationships even when it's difficult. Jesus teaches us to love our enemies, to pray for those who persecute us. This is the radical call of the gospel, to love even those who hurt us, even those who challenge us. And it is in this radical love that true unity and peace are found. So I ask you today, my dear friends, how can you be an instrument of unity? Who in your life needs to experience the peace that comes from seeing them as a beloved child of God? Who can you reach out to, not to change them, but to build bridges, to bring about a deeper understanding, to foster a spirit of communion? Let us be people of peace, people who build unity, people who recognize that we are all part of the same family. Let us open our hearts to one another, let go of fear, and embrace the love that unites us all. For when we do, we will see that the peace of God, the peace that surpasses all understanding, will fill our hearts and flow into the world, one small act of love and kindness at a time. In the gospel, Jesus speaks of a peace that is not of this world, a peace that is deeper, more enduring than anything the world can offer. This peace, my dear brothers and sisters, is not simply the absence of conflict, nor is it just a calmness of mind. It is something much more profound. It is the peace that comes from knowing we are loved by God, the peace that comes from living in harmony with one another, the peace that fills our hearts with mercy and compassion, especially for those who suffer. And so, peace must always begin with a change of heart, a deep conversion of our lives toward the things of God. For the peace that Jesus offers is not a superficial, fleeting peace. It is a peace that calls us to transform the way we see ourselves and the way we see others. It is a peace that calls us to let go of the pride and the self-interest that often separate us from one another. It calls us to open our hearts to the reality of the poor, the marginalized, and the suffering among us, and to let their pain touch our own hearts. Think about the story of the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man living in his comfort, ignoring the suffering of the poor beggar who lay at his gate, could have easily turned his eyes away. But his failure to see, to care, to reach out is what led to his undoing. And Lazarus, the poor beggar, knew what it meant to be hungry, to be in pain, to be on the margins of society. Jesus, in his boundless love, invites us to recognize the face of the poor in all those around us, not to ignore them, not to overlook their suffering, but to enter into it. Peace comes when we look at the world through the eyes of love, through the eyes of mercy. Let us pause for a moment and think about the faces of those who are often overlooked. The homeless, the refugees, the sick, the elderly, the lonely. How often do we see them, really see them? It is too easy, my dear friends, to be caught up in our own busy lives and turn a blind eye to those who suffer. But Jesus calls us to do more than just notice. He calls us to act. He calls us to give of ourselves, to share our resources, our time, our love with those who have so little. This is where true peace begins. When we reach out to the least among us, when we offer them the dignity they deserve, when we love them as brothers and sisters, peace also begins when we choose to forgive. How many of us carry the weight of grudges, of past hurts, of unforgiveness in our hearts? We hold on to anger, we hold on to pain, and it eats away at our peace. But Jesus teaches us that forgiveness is the path to healing, the path to reconciliation. He tells us, if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Forgiveness is not easy. It requires humility. It requires us to lay down our pride, to open our hearts to mercy, even when it feels impossible. But it is the only way forward. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door to peace, both within ourselves and with others. I think of the many times Jesus forgave, not just in words but in action. He forgave those who betrayed him, who abandoned him, who mocked him. And in doing so, he showed us that peace is not something we can find on our own. It is something we must be willing to give. Peace is born in forgiveness. It is born in our willingness to let go of the hurts that bind us and to embrace the freedom that comes from healing. And so, peace requires us to change how we love, how we forgive. It requires us to choose mercy over judgment, compassion over indifference, unity over division. Peace is not simply a feeling, it is a way of life. It is the daily, intentional decision to act in love, to seek reconciliation, to offer forgiveness, to walk with those who are suffering, and to work for justice. As we reflect on these truths, let us ask ourselves, how are we living the peace of Christ in our own lives? Are we choosing mercy over judgment? Are we reaching out to those on the margins, offering them not just our resources, but our hearts? Are we forgiving those who have hurt us, letting go of the past and embracing the future with hope? Today, I invite you, my brothers and sisters, to make a commitment to live peace in a new way. Let us not wait for the world to change. Let us be the ones to change it through small acts of kindness, through moments of forgiveness, through lives of compassion. Peace begins with us, and it begins with the choice to love as Christ loves, with a love that transforms, that heals, that unites. Let us open our hearts to the poor and the suffering. Let us open our hearts to those who need our love, our mercy, our presence. And let us allow the peace of Christ to fill us so that it may overflow into the world. As we reflect on these truths, dear brothers and sisters, let us remember that peace does not come from the world. It comes from within us, from a heart that is open to God and to one another. It is a peace that is born in forgiveness, in love, in mercy, in unity. It is a peace that requires action, that calls us to walk alongside the poor, the suffering, the broken. And when we choose to live in this peace, the world will change. The world will be healed. The world will know that love is stronger than hatred. Light is stronger than darkness. And mercy is stronger than judgment. So I ask you today, will you be an instrument of peace? Will you choose love? Will you choose forgiveness? Will you choose to walk in the way of Christ, a way that heals, a way that brings unity, a way that transforms? I know that sometimes the road is difficult and the world can feel like a place of division and pain. But remember this, peace begins with each one of us. It begins with you, with your choice to love, to forgive, to reach out. You have the power, through the grace of God, to bring peace into this world. And with each small act of kindness, with each moment of mercy, you are making a difference. So, my dear friends, I encourage you to go forth in peace. Let your lives be a testament to the power of love. Let your words be filled with kindness, your actions with compassion, and your hearts with mercy. Together we can create a world where peace reigns, where justice is lived, and where all are treated with dignity and respect. Good luck, and may God bless you abundantly on this journey of peace. Thank you for your openness, your commitment, and your willingness to be the hands and feet of Christ in this world. May His peace be with you now and always.